Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Friday night show. Second Friday in a row, you know.
It is.
Getting regular. Love it. Thank you ever so much for tuning in, everyone. As I always say at the start of the show, let us know who's watching, let us know who's on, let us know who, if you have any questions, if you want to sort of get involved in the show. Had some really good interactions as we've become more regular with the shows, and as we've as we become more regular, as we post more shows, lots more people have been getting in contact. We've had some really, really nice feedback, which is always nice to hear. Mainly about me,
obviously, yeah.
Mainly about me carrying most of you. So yeah, if you can step up this week, guys, that'd be good. But
sorry,
no, but generally, like, you know, lots of really good feedback, nice feedback about the way we investigate things and the way we sort of go into things and stuff. Donna's the first one to say hello. Good evening, Donna.
Evening, Donna.
It's getting a bit regular. I like it. Donna normally misses us, so she's on tonight. So thank you for tuning in, Donna. But yeah, like I say, Zoe as well. Hi, Zoe.
Evening, Zoe.
Thanks for tuning in.
Evening.
So yeah, some really good feedback from people. So anyone's getting in contact, thanks ever so much. Also had some sort of footage sent in as well. So this is the second week in a row. We're hopefully going to bring a few bits to you from people that have sent things in, and yeah, it's generally getting more notice, and it's going in the right direction for what we want to do. As I've sort of said right the way through this, we're aiming to try and bring live events to you. So literally the moment we can get out, which actually isn't too long now, is it? You know, so I'm going to stay away from the weather reports tonight. As soon as I said it's going to be nice weather,
you jinx that.
It's awful. It's snowed. I know, so I won't say anything about the weather today. I might try and curse it away, but there is 70% chance of rain tomorrow, actually. But yeah, John Hammond says hello as well. I know John's watching. So
John.
Hi, John.
Thank you for tuning in, John. Yeah, looking forward to get out there as soon as we can, really. But the more likes we get, the more follows, the more you go onto YouTube and follow the accounts, the more people that watch it, the more we can get out there to you, really. And the more venues we can bring you. We've got some real good and exciting ones lined up. So yeah, we're really looking to bring those events to you, and we can't do it without you know. So keep the suggestions coming in, keep the footage coming in, keep your evidence coming in, and then keep going. And Becca's watching as well as Julie. So Julie, guys. Julie's still got your 100% there as well. So your badge is in the post, almost like a Blue Peter badge, but obviously a lot more special. So yeah, I was going to say Jim will fix it, but that's can't. Yeah, so
it's not like that at all.
We go. Oh God, I've started already.
That's a show in itself.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
I'm not adding that one to the list.
Sorry. Kev, you started this by doing all these stupid jokes before we started. You put me in this mood, I reckon.
Yeah, Heather's thrown us.
Very off colour. Very off colour indeed.
She is. I think it's right. So yeah, we've got an action-packed show for you this evening. We've sort of gone back into the old format of discussing a topic and going through them. So, but yeah, keep the likes coming, keep the questions coming. We're trying to monitor YouTube as well. So if you've got your questions on YouTube, we're trying to get through them. We're on Facebook Live anyway. So, but yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in on this fine Friday evening. So tonight we're going to talk about castles, and we're going to talk to you about the castles we've been to. Generally a review of everything we've been to from a castle where we'd like to go to, favourite castles, favourite experiences, and really just a general conversation about castles within the United Kingdom. No, is it further than that? Yeah. Are we going to talk about anything further than that?
I found this on the web.
My watch just says found it on the web. But, so yeah, paranormal.
You just bought a castle.
All the time. But yeah, talking about castles that we've been to, castles that we've experienced. Oh God, can we start again, Andy?
It was going to smooth earlier on.
Ask Siri to start again.
But yeah, general castles we've been to, how we approach castles and so on. And if you've been to any of them, let us know. If you've been in any castles that you recommend us go to, chuck them in, and we'll do our best to review them and stuff like that, really. But before we do move on, last show was about EVPs, and we played to you EVPs that we caught. We had and we had some really good interaction, and you really helped us understand some of the EVPs that we were a little bit unsure of.
We had one from Donna as well.
Donna's one came in and we reviewed that, which is really good. We had another one sent in, which actually we think is too good. And although we're not talking about EVPs tonight, we thought it was too good to let it wait until the next EVP show. So it was sent in by Nikki, who, I'm going to take claim of this, off the back of last week's show, did a bit of EVP work herself and captured an EVP. And it's really strange. It's good. It's really good and really strange. And we've taken it down. We've got into it. We've analysed the voices. We've slowed it down. we've sort of magnified it and really tried to get to the bottom of what we think it says, and it's really odd. It's really, really odd.
Yeah,
so we'd like to play it to you tonight. Although we're not doing an EVP show, like I said, I think I thought it. I'll build up now, but I thought it was too good not to sort of play tonight, really. So we'd like to play that to you now, really, and get your thoughts on what it says, and show you that actually you don't need to have a venue as such. You can go and do sessions. You know, there are lots of places around. I know I've gone out and done a couple. We live in Netley Abbey, where we've got Royal Victoria Country Park, and myself and the family have gone down there, early evening time, and sort of had a little bit of a wander around, taking the history, but also see what we've sort of see what we try and pick up, really. So without further ado, we'll play the EVP to you. Are we going to play it and then get reactions and play it again?
Yeah,
enhanced,
so what I'll do is I'll let it play originally, maybe twice, just to kind of get the feel of it, and then we'll cut back and then give people a few minutes just to let it soak in, and then we'll play it back again where I've boosted up a little bit, and after that I've got some very interesting comparisons of the frequencies involved with the EVP and the person doing the calling out, so we can take a look at that as well.
That I sent you. Brilliant. Okay, that's amazing. All that work I did.
Yeah, thanks for that, Dan.
I can't take any claim for that. It's like I say, as soon as we get anything like that through, we chuck it over to Andy and Beth, and they do their magic on it. And it really adds value to the EVP, doesn't it? Because then we can almost rule out, if it is a person saying things. We do it on an investigation, don't we? Where we've said something, and then someone else in the room's responded. We're quite good at it now by going, "That was my tummy," or "That was my, that was me," or "Sorry, that I just coughed," or "I just breathed," or "I have a really bad thing of whistling." Like, and we capture whistles all the time, and I've had to say, "Listen, that's my nose," or "That's me whistling." So we're quite good at that. But the analysing that Andy does really sets home about what's been caught. So without any further ado, let's play it.
Okay.
See what you think.
Can I speak, please? I'm Robbie. Can I speak, please? I'm Robbie.
Okay, there you go.
Cool. Okay, so that's the EVP. Like I say, just caught out there with a recorder, maybe on a phone or whatever. We don't know the full backstory of it, but that was an EVP caught by someone who watches the show. Let us know what you think it says, or let us know what you think of the EVP.
The only person talking is that one person.
Yeah.
That's asking the questions. There's nobody else talking at the time, I've been told. So, yeah, it's interesting. It's a really good one.
It's certainly a strange one. It's certainly strange. So let us know at home if you've heard it. See what you think. I'll give you time to digest it, and then we'll play it back again, more enhanced, to see whether anyone picks it up. But be interested to see what you guys think at home. We sort of heard it straight away, didn't we? And it's what we love, because obviously we're not allowed to go out there and investigate at the moment. So we're so much reliant on keeping these shows going and chatting about our experiences. But when people are experiencing them at home as well, it's really cool, really amazing.
Yeah, definitely.
So I've done on the enhanced version. From that piece of footage, I think we can pick up two places. There's EVP. So there's a smaller one and then there's a longer one. The smaller one is actually over the first bit of calling out, which makes it difficult to increase the volume on. So I've done that a little bit, and then after the second bit of calling out, there's a much longer piece which I've been able to amplify quite a lot, so it's a little bit clearer. So should we?
Right, Julie's asked, can you play that bit? Play that one?
Yeah, let's do that.
She asked to play it again, but
okay, let's go.
Can I speak, please? I'm Robbie. Can I speak, please? I'm Robbie.
Okay, there you go. So that's the enhanced one. So you can hear the volume bump up towards the end there. There's a bit more background noise, but I think it's easy to pick out what might be there.
So we're thinking it might be a couple of people responding to the question, or to at least to the to the person's voice. We're probably,
to me, it sounds like two different voices.
I think it does.
But yeah,
I think it sounds like two different voices. It just proves you can go. I suppose you don't need all this. I mean, we spend thousands, and we've got all manner of equipment. We try and capture things with, and all the flashy lights, and I'm sure the technical names to them. I'm not. But all the flashy lights and the gizmos and gadgets that Andy makes, that we bring along and we pay for and we see. But actually, just from a simple EVP session, it's really interesting. Be interesting to know what you think at home. I know that we might be a little bit delayed in terms of the questions coming through. So let us know what you think about it. We can always play it again next time, but it's certainly it's what we would class certainly as an EVP. There we go. So Julie says, Robbie, Robbie, who's that, in two different voices?
That's what I hear.
Brilliant. And then Donna said, I can hear Robbie, and then, is that you, Robbie?
Yeah, exactly it's just what I think.
I think it's, I just think it, like I say, I think it's simple.
It's good. It's really good.
Intelligent.
EVP.
So it's a simple EVP. It's an intelligent EVP. So when you sort of sit in somewhere and you hear a noise and it doesn't make, this is actually responding, which is what I would say probably sits in a Class A EVP, because in fairness, it's not something that you look at and then think, does it say this, or everyone's given a different name? It's clear in what it says. So
watch it. It's
brilliant.
Evelyn.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah, so you guys hear exactly the same. So cool.
It's a good EVP.
I think it sits.
Well done. Thanks for sending it in as well.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Any more of it? If you go out and do anything like that, or you've got anything from previous investigations that you might, like I say, some of the best recordings has happened on a phone, hasn't it? Or just happened when you just...
We've done it before, haven't we? Originally, when we first started out, we didn't have all manner of equipment, so we just had the basics. And
Julie says it's really clear, fantastic. I think it sits. If we were going to categorise it as our own evidence, it would have to sit as a Class A EVP, I think. And
Nicky's just commented.
So
now.
Nicky's on now.
That's her EVP. Yeah, cheers for sending that in, Nicky. It's
honestly,
really good.
Honestly, Nicky, it's just
really
things
good.
like that really makes the show worthwhile, because it shows that obviously we were sort of picking up, but actually it makes people are listening at home and doing that. So no, Nicky, honestly, real thank you ever so much for sending it in. Carlos has put both me and Robin are watching. Hi
guys.
Carla. Hi Robin. Thank you for watching. And Donna says it's brilliant EVP as well. Yeah, like I say, I think it sits for us as a Class A EVP, really.
Would you like to have a look at some of the comparison before we move on? Just
yeah, shall we? Can we? Sorry, apologies. Yeah, can we do that? Yeah. So, do you want to explain what you've done with it? And then...
So what we did was we looked at the person doing the calling out and took a snapshot of their waveform of the frequencies they used, and then took a look at the nice long clip of the EVP at the end and looked at the frequencies there. The idea being is then you can then completely discount someone doing the calling out, and it's quite interesting. So I'll just put that on. There you go. So what we're looking at here is the frequencies of the person doing the calling out. You can see a lot of the vocal range is in the sort of 250 hertz, and there's a nice chunk in the 500 hertz. But that doesn't look at all like the one which is the EVP. This is the piece at the bottom, the kind of low 50 hertz is the kind of the background hum, but the speech is definitely more around the 300 hertz and a big chunk around the 750. So nothing at all. And if we just overlay those as well. There you go. You can see that there's literally no comparison between the person doing the calling out and any of that voice at the end at all. It's a completely different set of wavelengths which is in the speech. So we're quite happy to rule that out. And what we do on an investigation is typically do this sort of thing and then try and get samples of everyone who's present and then see if there's any close matches. And it's a good way of just positively debunking, so kind of ruling out things which could be possibly natural and someone making a noise and forgetting they did it later down the line. But yeah, it kind of shows quite clearly that there's a big difference between the person calling out and the voices that are coming back from it.
Even forgetting the numbers, you can see with the two contrasts of colours that it's two different voices. And again, I think we've got better at this now. And Andy and Beth mic us up, so literally all the team, and depending on how the numbers, I would say probably 90% or certainly 75% of the people that come on our events are going to be mic'd up now, along with the 30 other voice recorders that are around the building. So we're able to really try and distinguish where that voice is coming from, who's it closer to, but also for things like that to be able to say, actually, do you know, that sounds like, because we've had voices where, I mean, Andy, you've caught me at Woodchester Mansions where I wasn't even there. Yeah. We've had that, haven't we, where we've heard voices where, you know, we've had that, you know, and I think in the past we might have ruled it out and said, listen, no, that's definitely Dan. But actually, one, I wasn't there, so that's a bad example. But when we're on an event, we can say, oh, that's a woman talking, I had Hev in my group, let's discount it. But actually, where we're able to delve a little bit deeper into it, it really shows, the work and level that Andy and the guys do in terms of delving into it, but really how much we look into things to make sure that we say, it's definitely a voice. It hasn't come from the person asking the questions or the person there. So It has to be, you know, we take it on the face value that we weren't there, but it has to be it's paranormal. It's something that's not normal. It hasn't come from what we'd expected. So yeah, Emma's just said there, thanks for watching again, Emma. She said it's insanely clear, and it is, and it really is. And be able to enhance it just helps you sort of really appreciate where that voice has come from and the work you've done behind. So thanks for that, Andy. But yeah, really good EVP. And I thought it was a shame to let that slip, really. And then we're moving on to castles this week. It's a shame to let that slip and let that just sort of, let's say die away, but let that sort of go into the archive without showing you it. And it just backs up that it's a real good EVP. So thank you very much for sending it in, Nikki.
Yeah, cheers, Nikki.
Thank you much.
Go and do some more for us. Go and do loads more.
Pop back out and get some more.
Yeah, go on. Let us know. But yeah, anyone that's got anything like that, they want us to, you know, if anyone's got
anything paranormal, I suppose, isn't it? Videos, anything they want to show.
Anything, videos, shadows, lights, orbs, anything like that, we do our best to try and look into it. And that's the thing, Nikki's put there, thank you for doing that. I'll always question things. And I think that the moment you stop questioning things, the moment the night is lost. And that sounds really dramatic, but we always say, so I stand up in front of everyone and I say to people, right, okay, hands up, who believes in the paranormal? And then you get your raise the hands. If everyone shoots their hands up, I actually know from a public side of things, we could be in for a tough night, because you spend half the night calming people down. I mean, Hev, we take a lot of newbies, don't we? And how many times do they listen? Don't let the building beat you, because Widley, for instance, we talked about it. We go down into the tunnel. So if we think about ghost hunting in general, you go on our website, you book a ticket. It's haunted this and haunted that and ghost this and ghost that. I do a massive write-up about it. You come along, we turn the lights off, you know, like it can't be any more suggestive than that. So the moment you stop, questioning things is the moment where the night can be lost, and you can get Hev. I think you mentioned it before, didn't you, about being beaten by the building, you know? And that's definitely something you need to be mindful of.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it's just nice that we're finding the science to back up, you know, the voice wavelengths reinforces what we believe, but it isn't just our thoughts or our experiences. We have scientific, intelligent, you know, investigation backing up what we kind of already know. So it's just proving what we know, isn't it? And it's great that, you know, with Andy's tech, that we're able to introduce that science side of things to validate what it is that we're finding, you know, because we still don't know most of what it is that we're doing. It's an unknown investigation, isn't it? Which is why we've got no scientific bodies that, you know, do theses on paranormal investigation or something, because there's no substantial science that explains it. So maybe we'll be the ones to discover that.
Maybe that's it. Maybe it's us. Yeah. I think some people look at it, you know, I think that the way you battle on ghost hunts is people come along and they've seen the TV show, so they're just expecting so much. And I think we learned really quickly that, you know, that when most haunted go to a venue, they're there for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and into Sunday if they need to be. And they block out the windows so it's dark. And Preston Manor's a fine one. They were there from Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, I think. And so what you see in a 50-minute show, take out all the drama and the interviews. you see lots of activity, but actually that's just not spanned over one night. Not all the time anyway. So, and we basically got 6 hours, barring the coffee breaks, toilet breaks, and stuff like that to try and get that over to you really. So, but we've always said all the way through that I'd rather someone walk away from one of our events going, that was a bit crap, nothing happened, rather than did Dan fake it, or was Hef pushing the glass, or was Mary stealing things? No, sorry, Mary. But was Mary pushing the down? Was Andy doing this?
I'm just putting it out there. I don't think.
That's an in-house joke.
That's an in-house joke. Probably not for this, not for this platform. So apologies, Mary. All
right.
Hence the reason she's in the castle at the moment.
Yeah.
She's actually on release from the prison in the castle.
I think they're after you there.
We haven't got a prison show yet, have we?
No.
Anyway, castles. Where were we?
Live from a prison soon.
Yeah. I am changing the tops to stripes now with the arrows going down. So.
That just for me.
yeah, just for you. Yeah, just the women. That's just the women's. So this week we're talking about castles. I think castles. It's a privilege to go where we go in castles. I think that we have talked about it earlier, and we talk about when we go into the castles itself. But we get to go into castles and get into places where the public don't ever really see, or if they do, it's a whistle-stop tour through.
And there's probably hundreds of people there when they're wandering around. We go in maximum of 30 of us.
Absolutely, and depending on the price of the venue, we probably look at maybe half in that. We've done St Braivels at 10, we've done Craig-y-Nos at 6 of us. There's lots of castles we've done, but they also come with a price tag, and that's the thing. Like Warwick Castle, for instance, is a very expensive event, so we had to take more people along to it. But being able to wander around Warwick Castle, how historic that is. So castles I think they're a privilege to investigate. They're also a pain in the butt as well, because a lot of them are English heritage and we can't get in. So there are lots of castles we want to go to that we can't because English heritage have them, or actually where they can be a bit of a pain, where they're either lottery funded or funded via a museum or the daily tours. They don't need us of an evening, so actually we can be a bit of a hindrance that someone's been there all day and then expect us to pop along at night and someone spend the night. So actually it's a privilege to be able to get in them really. And tonight's show is going to be talking about a general sort of castles that we've been to, a general castle review, and then we'll talk about favourite castles, best experience. And if we've got a bit of time, where we'd like to go to. Some of them are completely pie in the sky. Some of them would be definitely accessible and on the list and when we move forward, really. But so generally, sort of castles we go to. Do you know what? Some of them have been museums, aren't they? Some of them are ruins now. Some of them are. Some of them are just like the forts, aren't they? They're not unlike the more sort of barrack side of things. And some of them we've been to. I remember, I think Clitheroe Castle we went to. We were so excited about it. And it's got all that history, which I'll go into later. But loads of history. But actually, when we got there, it was just literally the keep, and then we had sort of the new museum bit and something else in it. They also can be quite frustrating. I remember another story, we're going to go into them, but I remember going to Warwick Castle, and I remember walking around Warwick Castle and going into that main room where they've got the horse and the armour. And we were like, this is trigger object heaven, and we was much be investigating it. And then when we did the walk around, he just pulled the doors closed and bolted it, and we're like, what about in there? And he went, nah, it's off limits. He said they had some stuff stolen, I think, or some stuff taken. So they actually then put it off limits. So it was like behind doors, and it's
it's an amazing room, wasn't it?
Oh god, it was so amazing. Some castles just go on, get on with it, and just do your worst. They've stood for thousands of years. You ain't going to do much more damage. Some of them lock away the artifacts, or say you can go in there, you can't go in there. So it's they can be brilliant, they can be frustrating, but actually overall they're a privilege to be able to walk around. And we're going to share some of our experience with castles. Before we do that, though. Question for everyone and anyone at home. You love my questions. Anyone at home as well. Do we or do you approach castle investigations differently? Do you do anything differently on a castle investigation that you would do in a manor house or a fort?
Don't take things.
Don't steal things is a big one for us, you know.
We're more
didn't even look at you, Mary. We didn't even say to you. We weren't even saying.
Wear more layers of clothing because you know it's going to be cold.
With her armour on, chicken. Ride the horse.
But Andy, do you approach castles differently to a standard investigation?
Yeah.
If there is such a thing as a standard investigation.
Yeah, but I think you touched on a point earlier that sometimes you can be caught unawares about what you've brought. So you go to a place, think, okay, it's a castle. I sort of understand that, and you go there, and then you're outside for a good deal of the night because some of the castles is ruined, and you're open to elements, and that makes it difficult. So I think over the years, what I tend to do with castles is try to focus an investigation a bit, because these things are so huge that it's best to not go crazy and try and put something everywhere, because then you end up with nothing or not be able to overlap things. So if you leave a recorder in one room in a house and then another recorder down the corridor, you can be sure that if something natural's there, you're going to hear it on both recorders. You can probably work out where it's gone. With a castle, if you do that and it's one building on one floor, they're all in isolation, so you can't use them to back each other up. So with a castle, try to do research on them, and then figure out where people have seen things, heard things, and try and focus footage and collection footage in those areas. On the other hand, the thing was said about researching also, it's really difficult, because a lot of the sort of the people research we have through newspapers, etc., don't go back as far as castles. So you don't get 1,000-year-old newspapers. You only get to know about who was the lord there, who was the king there, who was in charge of the entire thing. You get nothing about all the other people that lived there, all the people who had stories, and all you end up with is Lord such and such, King such and such, and the chance of that person being there and being useful in the calling out is fairly slim. So on one hand, it's good to do research to try and find where to go for the paranormal events, but for kind of calling out experiments, it's quite difficult to find targets.
Yeah, I agree with you there, and I think that there's two good comments in it. Paul was talking about no fort, so a little bit different to castles, but like getting in access. He said about really rings true about getting an access that the public don't get into, and take into account the cold and a large, so lots of places to work. So I think that you can be bogged down with a venue as well. Like no fort is a prime example. Loads of areas to investigate. You almost want to get round everywhere. But you can end up chasing your tail, thinking I'll go here because this was where Mary Queen of Scots did this, or this is where he was imprisoned here. But actually, you get too bogged down with that, you'll end up and then Nicky's just said here as well, lots of layers in castles as well throughout time, so sometimes not easy to work out. That is perfect. A great point there. And I think that especially I think we look at, if you look at we're going to go into sort of the headlines of famous ghosts or famous where we've been to, but actually how many times have we, Preston Manor is a fine example. I know it's not a castle, but we look at the house and stuff, but actually when we're down in the depths of the house, we're talking to scullery maids and we're talking to servants and stuff that certainly have been no records.
No names,
no records. So, and if you go into someone saying, I'm calling out to Mary Queen of Scots, well actually, you would have had servants there, the cooks, the cleaners, the stablemen. So I think I think castles make you work, I think, but actually flipping that round, some of our best evidence has come Craig-y-Nos Castle with Adelina, and the work we've done and the knowledge we've known. We've been able to set up some pieces of equipment going by the history of what's been said and what's been caught there, and we've caught some good stuff as well, haven't we? Yeah. So I think castles make you work for it, but yeah, I think because of the different layers, and we're going to go into the castles we visited in a minute, and we're going to do a whistle-stop tour of when it was built, general use of the castle, and then famous spirit or famous ghost there, right? Do you know what I found? And I said to Lee, as I got here, have you done your notes? And he went, yeah, but I've written too much, because actually, how many different owners and how many owners? Right? It's weird, right? How many places Henry VIII is either associated with or been, and we've actually
get around a bit though, didn't he?
He did famously.
But well put. But generally, and I think that when you delve into the history, you'll actually often find a quote to say this was once owned by Henry VIII, although we never visited. I can't remember what venue that was. Can you remember what it was? But we've been to 2 or 3 of them where it's gone. This was once owned by
priest, not priest house.
The Lancaster Secunda one, wasn't it?
The Lancaster Secunda Manor.
Yeah.
Oh, of course,
Wales.
yeah.
He owned it because of the
part
dissolution of monasteries, so the crown took it.
Oh,
So
right.
most monastery buildings kind of were owned by Henry VIII at one point.
Yeah, so I think that sometimes you can read a snapshot and think Henry VIII is, and then go calling out to that era and that, but actually would have never frequented there. It
Would
was
you
just,
call him Mr. the Eighth? To be polite.
I don't know.
Just be polite. Can't-
That's another show in itself. Mary, note that down. How would we know?
Noted.
But yes, you're right though. Do you like say
You might have lost your head there, Lee.
Sorry.
But yeah, like as that gun. But what Nikki said there, lots of different layers. So it's about working through and being clever. And I think if you get bogged down with this was owned by so and so, how many times does the castle change hands all the way through the year? Even if it's within a family or whether it's different ownerships or in battle and then taken over by another, a completely different person. So I think you can get bogged down in info.
Yeah.
But I think we definitely approach it a bit differently. I think there's I think you've got to have in your armory.
Let's go.
Boom. I think you have to have names and you have to have an understanding of the history. But again, I think if we took a public, we wouldn't go with that, and we would just generally go with the normal investigation techniques where we're just calling out for people. But on a private investigation, we tend to sort of have it in the locker, don't we? That so and so would have been here or there, and try and look at key dates in history. So actually, was there anything substantial that happened here? Was there, I think that. I keep on going from different venues, but if we know there's been a battle there, try and look at, I think that Tutbury is a great one of that. You guys take the slug incidents out of it. You guys were investigating in the open because that's where lots of lives were lost, So, and we wouldn't have every soldier that died there. We wouldn't have every regiment. We wouldn't have, but actually it's about being broad and just trying to open your mind really and use what's available to you, but not be too swayed by it or bogged down by it.
I think it's
cool.
Interesting that you, when you're doing your research, have a look and see what claims are there, because some locations also have experienced hauntings and have had recordings of ghosts there as well. So, I'm not saying it's going to happen when you're there, but if you're aware of it, it's always interesting to sort of go to that hotspot, and if we've got access, go and do the investigation there as well.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Nikki just says, well, there'd be settlements outside the walls too. So it's actually about investigating as much as you're allowed to. I think that we obviously try. I mean, Andy, you do a lot of recording, don't you? Inside and outside. So you have your spider outside and inside as well. So we're trying to sort of pick up. I think where sometimes that doesn't work for us brilliantly is a lot of castles we've been to have been city centres, haven't they? So you actually battle with quite a lot of the elements now. You think of Oxford Castle, I would never recommend spending £60 to £80 on a ticket for Oxford Castle if the weather's good. And
I wonder why they build them in town centres though, because it's
stupid, isn't it? It's stupid.
I don't know why they bother.
Well, they find a good car park that's empty and they build on top of that because it's a nice big space.
That's it. But Oxford Castle. For when we've done Oxford Castle, we did it where there was an outside theatre, didn't we?
Yeah.
And that was a nightmare, an absolute nightmare, because they were literally in the grounds of the castle. They're like, you can start. And we're like, no, we'll have coffee until you're gone, because you're making loads of noise. But again, lots of Dana Prison, for instance, that was one. I know it's a prison and not a castle. But
Dudley, which is now in the middle of a zoo, in the middle of a town. So not only you got town noises, you had a whole bunch of random animal noises.
Do you know what? I'd be lying if I did say I would. I'd be lying. Sea lion? I'd be lying if I didn't have a little wander. Didn't you go see the meerkats?
I saw the meerkats.
And I went and saw. Did you get them? No. I didn't know. Left them alone.
I didn't.
But where we actually did that, Nikki. So where you said about investigating, we went to the back end of Dudley where it is ruins, and we were doing investigating there. And all of a sudden we heard this like massive noise and then a splash, and then behind was not a walrus, so like a sea lion. I think it was a seal, and he must have come out for a swim and heard us. And then we sort of so it was like we ended up communicating with a seal, I think, or a sea lion or something. So, but that's a privilege in itself. You walk through the zoo at night, and that's another thing about it as well. But we're going to run out of time if we don't move on to our castle review. So let's stop being silly and let's move forward.
Serious faces.
So what we're going to do now is we've worked out that over the 11 years of investigating with Southern Ghost Sites, since we've investigated 10 castles, some of them numerous times, but 10 castles. And what we want to do is give you a bit of an overview of what the castle was, sort of the general hauntings of the castle, but also what the castle was sort of famous for, really, and just a bit of a brief snapshot. Before we do, Emma's just said on there, "Can you speak, please?" It's me, Robbie. So she's picked up the name Robbie as well. So yeah, clear EVP. Again, you're getting exactly the same as we did. So castle review. So let's move on. Yeah. What we've got is a bit of a video to show you. Again, we're going to be sort of talking around it. Shows you sort of the movements from here right the way to the castle, and then we're going to go through. So the first one we're going to move from is Southampton to, it's going to be a little bit delayed for us, isn't it? But Southampton to the first castle we're going to talk about we visited was Margam Castle in Wales, and Mary's going to give you a bit of an overview on Margam Castle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Should we fly there first?
Oh yes.
So let's fly there first.
Let's go.
Margam was amazing. Go, Mary.
Lovely. So, Margam Castle, it is an amazing location. I know the guys will back us up. I've not actually been there, but I've seen it on telly. Other shows and programs have been there, and it's a really big Tudor Gothic style built castle. It was built in 1830, I believe. And it was built by Christopher Rice Talbot and his family. But it's a massive building, real Gothic style. The only way I can describe it really is if you've been to Woodchester House, it's very similar to that kind of style of building. So it was owned by the Talbot family, and it was held by the Talbot family until 1941. It's now moved over to ownership by the council, sorry. And the main legend around the hauntings there, and I think, Andy, I'm going to sort of tag you in at the end, just because I know you've had an experience with this. So it is a sort of real legendary place in terms of ghost hunting, and sort of, it's definitely on the list of places to go. But the legend of the main haunting there is around a gentleman called Robert Scott, and he was a gamekeeper there. He actually got shot while he was out in the grounds. It's a pretty gruesome death as well, because he got shot in the face from a few meters apart, but it didn't actually kill him. So so poor thing. I think he suffered quite a bit. But the legend around it is that he's been seen on site, on location, and around the grounds, and he's still there because of the unjust way that he was killed. So he was killed by a poacher, and he said that he's still there to this day. And I think there's been lots of sightings around it. And Andy, I know you had a little bit of an experience there. I know we're sort of just going over the history, but
yeah. So I always research a place before we go. So I found out that story about the gamekeeper, and I thought, that's an interesting story, because I like to go to a place and discuss what's happened there with whoever I'm investigating with, because that's quite a good way of just feeling a little bit of empathy with the building and anyone who might still be there. And I thought this is a great story to just talk about, because that's something that's not great that happened. And I quite like to find stories which people might not have seen before. So if you go to a building which is investigated every week, if you go and talk to someone who's maybe never been addressed before, then that's actually quite a powerful thing. And then, lo and behold, I watch an episode of Most Haunted just to get a bit of a layout of the building. That's literally the only reason I watched it, by the way. just to see where everything was and what sort of level of equipment we need to take. And the first thing they do is they start calling up that groundskeeper, and they get that name like instantly, like first thing. And I think, oh, everyone knows about this, but I still try it because that's kind of part of what we do. And we get such a strong hit in this hallway. We're both sitting at this table, and she's sitting in front of a Mel meter and a K2 meter, and both start going off in response to questions. And it's something I've never seen before or since, that the action stopped when anyone went near her. So only basically was answering when Beth was on her own in this hallway. So when all this interesting stuff was happening, there was about 5 or 6 other investigators all standing by the doorway, not wanting to go in the room and scaring it off. But yeah, interesting place.
Yeah, really, really good. Yeah.
I don't. It's really bad. But the building was where they filmed Da Vinci's Demons. So when we went there, he sort of went there. He said, "Oh, you won't get to see the castle because it's made up for a film set." But it absolutely added to our night.
It was cool. It was a cool setup
because it's like a sort of set in medieval. I think it was medieval. Was it medieval? I think it was. And all the chambers were made up, and the room, the king's room, or something like that, whatever it was a lavish one. And the bed, and it was really good, really, really good. So yeah, good venue. Probably one we probably could head back to now, I reckon. But yeah, it's certainly a good one. So from Margam Castle, we're going to stay in Wales. I think it is. Yeah, it is Wales, isn't it? Carew Castle. We're going to go to Carew Castle. So Carew Castle. So Carew Castle was built in the 11th century. And what's left is just ruins. So when we got there, we were just praying for the weather to hold out. Even our mess room. One thing it was bloody freezing. And our mess room was just literally out in the cold. It was covered but had no door. We had stone walls, and it was really, really cold. So yeah, it was a challenge. It was definitely sort of a challenging one. So built in the 11th century. Although the final development was 1530 to 1592. And actually, the person that oversaw the final development was John Perrott, and he actually died in the Tower of London. So he never saw it finished, actually. So, but as you can see from the photo, it's ruins on a lake, and it's cold. And there are a few indoor rooms, but mainly you were investigating the outside. And we had a thoroughly good night. It's also, if you do go and visit here, see whether you get the tide mill with it as well, because we were able to walk from there to the tide mill, which is just up the river a little bit. And that was an interesting place as well. And he said that if we went back there, you can actually investigate the both. With that, it's just at the moment it's ruins. So you can go around and have a look at it. You can just go and do it. It's more sort of museum ruinsy. You can sort of see the white top where we had sort of the indoor part. Luckily, we did it as a private investigation. So there was only about, I think, between 8 and 10 of us there. There wasn't a lot of us there. Maybe not even that. And but yeah, it was a strange place, really weird. A lot of EVPs that you had to, try and discount. So the famous ghost, before I go on to John's comment there, the famous spirits there is a Celtic warrior, and then actually there's a white lady she's been traced back, so they've actually identified her. And what's key with her is she is a residual haunting. No one's ever really interacted with her. Although she's got so what I mean by residual is she walks around there. So people have caught glimpses of her. She goes through walls and doors that are not there. But actually, yeah, it's actually more of residual haunting rather than anything intelligent. And then there's actually an ape, a Barbary ape, which is like a macaque. Macaque, is that what they say? Like a macaque as well, that have been seen quite mischievous as well. Although we didn't come into contact with that. What John was just saying is one thing that's in the night. So we were on top of literally where you can see the sort of walkway through. We were on top of the sort of probably the bottom left hand statue there, and we were looking across the field because we had a white light that went through the field, and it was really odd. We thought it was a car, but then when we watched the clearing, no car came back. So whether it was paranormal or whether it was out of this world, we don't know. We saw a light, and then all of a sudden we saw another light sort of just moving through towards us, and then just shut up, oi! We're like, hello? And it was police. Someone called the police on us. Thought we'd broken into the castle. So we spent like 20 minutes going, listen, I had to show it. Like, I've got the paperwork and we've got torches and we want, we're wandering around the barracks. Yeah, but at some point, someone called the police on us. Yeah, I just remember that now. Yeah, we got the police on us. So the biggest thing that happened there was the policeman, I think.
I didn't go to this one.
Did you not?
No, I was working away. So
it was a good event. It was great to do. I would just say if you're ever looking to book it, just be really mindful of the time of year you're going. I think if you're going in the summer, it's going to be light, so it'll be a light investigation. And if you go in the winter, it's going to be freezing and you're going to be battling with the elements. So there's not a lot of indoor space. But yeah, I think whoever you go with, I think the price will reflect that as well. I think if we ever went back there, we would go for the evening tide meal. That's an evening for the tide meal as well. And I think we'd split one group in one and one group another, and then move them over. I mean, that's the way to do it. Paul's asked the question: does your research on location help you prepare, or does it make you focus on the documented history rather than on the night? What do you reckon? I think
it depends who you're investigating with. I think from a newbie's point of view, you don't go in there preconceived ideas, because newbies are people who've never investigated with us before, have never been on a ghost investigation. So that's more a taster session of how the equipment works, how we do the investigation, rather than focusing on gathering the evidence. If it's a private event, then I would go in with a brief summary of history and who was there at what time. So if I'm going to do questioning, I can gauge my questioning pitched at the right era of history, maybe, or ask people about who was the king or the queen, and knowing what kind of age era that I'm dealing with. So I think it depends who we're investigating with.
I think.
I'd use that pub analogy again. Actually, it's quite an interesting one. So, if say that you were going to go to a pub and you heard there was a guy called Phil there who was really into the same stuff as you, and you walked in the pub and then said, "Is Phil here?" and he was, and you have a nice chat. But if he's not, then you end up just chatting with whoever's there, but you're not going to have such a warm intro. You're going to have to start finding out about that person that's sitting by the bar. You're going to find their name, if they're interested in talking to you, etc. So sometimes it's great because it works, because it maybe gets you a bit of a foothold and a bit of foot in the door. But sometimes it doesn't work at all, and then you just have to kind of change tact.
Definitely, and I think irrespective of whether we're armed with every piece of information. I mean, if you ever Paul would sit down and show you one day when next time we meet up. I said we're going to meet up soon with Paul because he said about a venue to go to, but. When we meet up, we're sort of showing the level of information we can go into, and Andy and Beth go into on a lot of these. We'll have we'll have as much details of what other groups have caught there as well. But actually, we would never, irrespective of whether it's a private event or a public event, my opening is about the health and safety, splitting into groups and moving on. We would never feed anyone that information. It doesn't form part of any pre-emails that go out. And actually, even if it's a public event, even if it's a private event, we have members of the team on there that don't want it and don't use it. And actually, so we would never stand up and go to that because that's got the white lady, or go here. It's ours to be used. Everyone's got the access to it now, but actually it's used sparingly and used for people that want it. It's never something that forms part or leads part of our investigation, is it? Cool. Good question though, mate. Good question. So we're going to go from from Carew Castle into St. Braivels Castle. Yeah. So
let's go.
I won't start talking.
So St. Braivels Castle, what a venue!
I know.
It's in woods, isn't it? It's in the Forest of Dean, is it?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's an amazing venue. We've done 3 or 4 times now.
I like the way you can go there and sleep there, can't you? So
it's amazing.
Go there and stay all night, which is another plus, I think.
Yeah, definitely. So bit of history on the castle. It was built in 1131. Built as a castle. From the 17th century to the 19th century, it was a jail/debtor's prison. The castle itself, when it was standing, was visited by King John on a regular basis every November, I believe, for hunting or whatever he got up to. And they actually named a bedroom after him. So you
Yeah.
go into the King John bedroom, which later became a courtroom. And there's a stone in the fireplace. Do you remember seeing this?
Yeah.
There's a stone in the fireplace that has sort of marks on it. And it's said that every time somebody was sentenced to death, it was struck with a sword. And you can, to this day, do you know how true that is, Andy? Is that a thing?
Yes. Yeah. It's interesting because that's if you were to go on other groups' investigations, that's where everyone says the activity was, and we had bits in there. We live streamed. We couldn't get deep in because we lost signal, didn't we?
Yes.
But we had probably better activities throughout the jail than there. But yeah, it's an interesting room.
Yeah, there's a few other rooms like I said, when it turned into a prison from the 17th century, there were a lot of people sentenced to death there, and in the hanging room apparently, which is like the kitchen area now, isn't it? So yeah, there was loads of reports of spirits on that, and from 1947 to now, it's still a youth hostel now, isn't it? So you can actually stay there, can't you?
Yeah,
you can book it as a.
This is the tip, right? If you don't want to pay, because you have to book this venue for 2 nights, so it's quite expensive unless you can try and catch it on a one night. A tip for you: if you and a partner or you and a friend want to go, you can actually book it through the YHA, and there are bunk beds, so you will risk staying throughout the house with other people. But you catch it on a night, you could be the only two in there. Okay, other rooms are locked, but you're always staying in the prison bit, and it's all etchings on the wall. It's fascinating.
So yeah, from when we stayed there, and I think we stayed in near enough all the rooms.
We stayed in 3 rooms, didn't we?
Yeah, we stayed in the tower, and but the last time we were there, I remember waking up after being asleep for about an hour and just staring at the wall, and there's etchings that have been scratched into the wall from someone who's been sentenced to death, and literally within a couple of days was going to die. And I think the etchings on there were saying about getting revenge on someone.
Like a curse or something, or revenge, isn't it? There's a revenge something, yeah.
Yeah. So just waking up looking at that, it's just really surreal.
It's amazing.
It's
but it's
before
a great
it became a youth hostel, isn't it? The curse and the revenge was before the youth hostel days.
Yeah.
It's like checking.
It was just me scratching it on there because Dan was snoring.
That's what I revenge me and my sleeping habits.
But yeah, going back, famous ghosts or reports of ghosts at St Braivels Castle is, and I'm not sure we've caught this, in King John's bedroom, reports of baby crying.
Yeah.
Have we caught that?
We caught it. So the left-hand side, if you look at the left-hand side, you look in the picture, the 3rd room up, we caught a baby cry, or what sounds like a baby cry, or it was a woman sort of, it was strange. We had loads of activity above there. I'm not sure whether that's John's room itself, but we certainly caught it to the left-hand side above the oubliette room. Yeah,
there's also people that have stayed there have had their clothes being tugged. There's a ghost dog, apparently.
Nice.
Reports of a ghost dog. A knight has been seen there, and a grey lady. But one more thing, going back to staying there, is the bedroom we had in the left-hand side tower.
Yeah.
The oubliette.
Yeah, it's weird.
So the bed over the oubliette, and the reports of that, people have said they've woke up to their bedclothes being tugged off.
Yeah.
The quilt.
Almost like a struggle, isn't it? Yeah, with being pulled, but
I've slept over it once, and I must admit,
you're way too much of a deep sleeper.
We finished at 4 a.m. I was so tired that I just went out straight away. So I could have been punched in the face by a ghost, and I'd never have known.
I think World War III could happen, right?
Yeah.
You wouldn't know until the next
I was so tired, I was gone. So, but yeah, that's
great castle, and definitely there is a tip there that if you want to go, you can go, you can book it. And the Forest of Dean is amazing, so if you want to go for the weekend, it's a great base. There's a nice little pub at the end of the road. We've not been to the pub because we ate there, didn't we? But yeah.
It's a great venue as well. It's somewhere that I think it ranks somewhere in my top 10, I suppose.
I think so.
Of venues, and like I say, you've got it all night till the following day if you're staying there. So
I think the first night they cooked us breakfast, didn't they? I think the first time. The second time we bought snacks, yeah. First time they cooked us breakfast, yeah.
Oh yes, they did, yeah. But yes, cool. Great
cool.
venue.
So from St Braivels Castle, we're going to Oxford Castle now. So we're going to fly from St Braivels to Oxford.
Okay, so back when Oxford was a Saxon town in the 10th century, it was routinely attacked by the Danes. They would go in, they'd loot the place, they'd take what they could, and they'd keep going back north again. So after the Norman conquest, Baron de Oillet builds a Motte and Bailey castle to protect it. So when you go to Oxford now, you'll see Oxford Castle, and there's a big mound next to it, and that's the site of the old Motte and Bailey, which basically means wooden castle on a hill, and maybe with a ditch around the outside of it. And from that point on, it was a military castle until they started needing to use it for storing prisoners. So in the 16th century, they moved to using it as the county jail. And there's an interesting story there in 1642, where a trial known as the Black Assizes was held. There was a local bookseller named Roland Jenks who was convicted of supporting the Pope. And before he was executed, he cursed the court and the jury, and immediately afterwards a dreadful illness begins to take hundreds of lives in and around Oxford, and they all name it Jenks' curse. And interesting, that's exactly the same year as the Civil War started, and the castle was occupied by royalist troops, and Charles I actually makes Oxford his wartime capital, and he moves his parliament there, and the castle is used to hold the prisoners of war. So it's just full of Roundheads. Obviously, he lost, and then people kept using it as a jail, probably for his supporters. And they did an awful lot of executions. One thing, when you go to Oxford Castle, there's a huge history of the amount of people they've executed, and they tried lots of different things. So in the late 18th century, they moved the gallows from kind of the courtyard to 30 feet above the main gate, so they could have as many people as possible to come and witness the executions, because they thought, let's get people to watch this sort of things, let's put them off doing crimes. They won't want to do it if they can see people getting punished for it. However, it's hugely popular. People sell a lot of food there. It's a good time for people to come and watch them get killed and have some fun with people. It's kind of weird. So 1848, they decide to maybe even take down the hill and get rid of the castle and sell off the land, which is shocking, really. It's good that they didn't do that. And then only 15 years later, in 1863, public execution was outlawed because they realised it didn't work. So they started hanging people privately, which then stopped in 1952. And after that, it became a museum in 2006. And there's a very interesting story from the 12th century, which has become one of the most famous ghost stories there, which is about the Empress Matilda. So in the middle of the 12th century, that Stephen and Matilda were both at war for the crown of England. And Matilda had adopted the castle as her headquarters. And during 1142, Stephen was surrounding it, and it was under siege and blockaded, everyone from leaving and all their troops, etc. And it lasted for 3 months. And it's not a huge castle, but they were stuck in there for 3 months. And one day, it was cold, it was snowy, and nighttime, and not a day. Matilda escaped, and she escaped wrapped in a white cape, which kind of made her hide in the snow. And she fled through the snow, and she went to a Wallingford Castle, who was a friend down the road. And after she escapes, all her garrisons surrender. Stephen takes the place and goes, "Oh, Matilda's not here." Now, the interesting thing is, then after that point, for hundreds of years, up until the last one I saw was the beginning of the 1900s, people have witnessed this lady in a white cape running down the tower stairs. And they think this lady in the white cape, so like a white lady, is Empress Matilda leaving the castle. But interestingly, she didn't die there. Nothing bad happened. But there was certainly a period where she was obviously fearing for her life, and she was running for it as well. So that's an interesting ghost to have that's not linked to someone actually dying.
It's a great venue as well, isn't it? Oxford Castle is such a good venue. You get lots of. I think that what we found with Oxford Castle was you sort of got the main prison, and then you've got the tower, the Saxon Tower, and then you've got the crypt underneath. It just takes you to 3 different eras. Because I know that, I wonder if they still got it in there. When we investigated it, we've been there 3 times, I think. It's got was it the Black? No, not the Black Panther. What?
Yeah,
I think it might have been. Yeah,
they
held. Yeah, they've got. I think the Black Panther was held there, and because he was renowned for escaping, they built him a prison within a prison. So when you walk up to the main block, it's got like a hexagonal prison in this a cell, a padded cell where he was kept. So if he was to break out the cell, he'd only be in the cells again. So you really spore on you and went to investigate. Andy, question for you from Julie, not for you, but I'm passing it to you. Do you think it would help to try and speak some phrases in Old English if you're in an older castle? Do you think that would help us?
Yeah, we've had. In fact, I take usually an MP3 player along with me, and it's got some tracks of music from every single century from about the 800s. So it kind of goes from sort of Gregorian chant through to, well, Gregorian chant. But so I've also got trigger questions that are in lots of different languages, and I do have some which is in Old English. I think I quite often had some good experiences while playing the Lord's Prayer in Old English, and I think it was actually like English, so kind of just sort of Saxon era English, and that's definitely had responses in a few different buildings which have had a decent amount of age to them. So yeah, trigger music and trigger kind of languages is quite a powerful thing. We've had some good results from it.
Charlotte's followed on that by asking, she's always wondered if people dressed in costume of a historical period, a historical time, would help to build the activity. Now, I'm not sure if you guys know, but we've been to Portvillia. Do you know that?
I think I remember.
It's a little island. Well, it's only an hour in.
Yeah,
we've been to Portvillia.
Wow.
And in Portvillia, Lee bought the old doctor's mask. You know, the hook nose where they used to put the sage and the herbs, and we used that whilst Mike was saying some Italian phrases. Well, and it's basically calling out how we call out, but in Italian, and we had some really good responses in Italian, but also because we went over to the plague field, and because we went over to, we're going to do a show on this, by the way, but we went over to a plague field, and because the doctor would have been seen there to help, we used it to try and attract some stuff. And the EVP we caught, which says, "I want to get out of here," it could have been attributed to the doctor and us saying that we're there to help you. It would have helped our situation. On the flip side of this, Charlotte, right? He's an absolute idiot for dressing up. So actually, it's a complete hindrance when there's a dressing up section, because we have been in places where he's dressed up, and we've got a blooper show coming up.
A little bit harsh. I just try and reenact their time.
It's not. Yeah, but the thing is, the clothes are for kids. And
exactly, Andy. You get what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to
get a little bit of familiarisation with people.
When we do our blooper, we've been almost thrown out of a venue before we even started, because Lee was dressed head to toe as a Victorian girl, when Dave Everett said, "Is that the Cray twins you see top left?" Yeah, we got that sort of reputation, Dave, most definitely. Certainly,
we're quite scary, aren't we?
We are quite scary bunch. And Julie said, Portvillia. Sorry, you went where? Portvillia. Some people say
Porchester,
Portsmouth, but we definitely say. Right, let's move on. We're going to go from Oxford to Craig-y-Nos. We're going to go back to Wales.
Yes, we like Wales. So, Craig-y-Nos Castle, again.
What a castle.
What a venue that is. And again, another one we stay over at.
Yeah.
Amazing place. I'm going to say it again, but one of my favourites.
Yeah.
Got so many favourites. So, the castle itself was built in 1841 by Captain Rice Davis Powell. Now, his family was said to be cursed after he, and this is off a paper report, I think, he diddled the Dutch Overbeek family out of inheritance. That was actually what it said, so I'm only going off of that. From that point, his son died of cholera. His wife and youngest daughter then passed away. His son died in a hunting accident on the Isle of Wight.
No.
Then he died. So his eldest daughter moved in. Her husband passed away. Then she moved out, went to Tenby. She had enough. So she went. So, the history there of people passing out of the venue wasn't great. It was sold then in 1876 to Adelina Patti, who was a famous opera singer. Yeah, opera singer, yeah. And so she bought the place, and her time she lived there until her death. And she was a bit of a recluse. Never left. She only left to perform, I believe. Was that right?
And then she didn't leave at all after that. She built her own theatre, didn't she, and stayed there. She never really performed outside of that in the end.
Yeah, so she had the place, and she actually built a theatre inside the castle, which is still there now. It's still literally, the stage is the same. I think the backdrop and the back settings are all the same. It's something that's sort of stuck in time. And then when she passed, I think 1919, it was used as a TB hospital.
Yeah.
So it's had quite a, from the first family owning it, there's a lot of death there. And obviously with TB, that was a hideous.
Well, they were saying that they would wheel the children out into the cold
at night,
and then at night, and then they would pass.
If they survived the night, they come back in, and
there was so much death in this castle, and I think not all to do with. I mean, you just insinuate it's going to be battle and stuff, but there's actually so much death with family tragedy and then children. Children's deaths.
As a hospital, it was from 1922 to 1986. So there's probably there's a lot of death there, a lot of sadness. The history on the place is quite a dark one, but so the venue itself now is amazing. You can go and visit it. You can stay there. It's actually a hotel / wedding venue.
Yeah,
and you can actually get married in Adelina Patti's theatre.
Yeah.
And the settings of the place are absolutely stunning. But yeah, going over to the ghosts that are supposedly haunting the place still, and to be honest, from past experience with us, we've caught a few different things. So it's supposed to be haunted by Adelina Patti herself, the French tenor Niccolini, which was her second husband, composer Rossini. Was she married to Rossini?
I'm not sure their relationship. I know that it was second husband, the other one, but I'm not sure.
And there's loads of reports of children being heard, which I think we can sort of back up on investigations. Nurses actually working later on in the hospital have said to have walked past somebody in the corridors and then realised there's actually nobody there.
Yes, this is a venue that actually, when it was in operation, were reporting ghost sightings.
Reporting, the nurses were reporting sightings of seeing someone on the stairs, and there's nobody there. So yeah, even back then.
We've got an EVP we're going to try and bring to you, not tonight, but we got of Adelina singing. Jason was playing Adelina's song.
What was the song called? I'm trying to
something home. No Place Like Home.
Yes.
It's called her famous song was No Place Like Home, and Jason plays the song, and as he stops there, when he gets to the end, he captures someone singing on. And it's eerie. I'm not saying it's definitely her, but yeah, it's a really, really good place. And another one where you've got different levels. You've got the castle, you've got Adelina's time, and then you've got the TB hospital as well.
It's a brilliant venue to investigate, and it's quite a big place, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we've done it again. How many times?
Three or 4 times. We've had loads of activity there. Really good venue. Dan, Dave was saying on there that Dan, his son, has caught. He had a message in Latin on the rods at Portchester Castle, which translated to "Is my Lord." Was it? I can't even say that. I can't even say it. Delicious. Is that what it says? It is my Lord. So yeah, he had a message in Latin that they later researched, and they found out that it actually was a response, or it certainly was a word that they didn't recognise in the beginning. It didn't make any sense, but actually when they went back and researched it, they found it as well. So another great piece of evidence at a castle we haven't been to yet, but that's cool. Right, we're moving on from Craig-y-Nos. We are going to Warwick Castle now. I know we've had a brief chat about it, and Mary's there now, but Mary's coming live. Our roving reporter, Mary, are you still there at Warwick Castle?
Live from Warwick. Right, and I believe I've landed. So, Warwick Castle again. I know Lee says it. You know, one of our favourite places. I think there's a lot of locations that are our favourite, but Warwick Castle is probably one of the sort of famous castles that you would probably know about. Again, it's a medieval castle, and it's been there from 1068 it was built by William the Conqueror, and then later rebuilt in stone from the 12th century. It was then a stronghold right all the way through to the 17th century, so military and sort of a real stronghold there. It was then granted to Sir, and I hope I say his name right, Fluke Braivels, who then converted. Have I said it wrong? Have I said it wrong?
No, not at all.
Good. So it was converted to a country house, and then it remained in the family to 1978 as the Earl of Warwick. Then the Tussauds Group has taken it over, and we know that today is the Merlin Entertainment. You can go there for daytime visits. They hold lots of attractions there. And this actually touches on what we were discussing earlier. They do medieval reenactments. So I think that really helps sort of with the investigation. So we've been there and had a really good investigation. And I know a lot of the areas are kind of sort of got staged areas where you've got sort of mannequins, and it's all designed as it would have been in a medieval time. So the areas of interest, and again this touches on, it's a massive building, so you have residents that have been there that have experience of seeing ghosts previously, which is the tower, and I'll come on to that in a minute. I've got notes, but some of the interesting areas, you've got a bear pit there, you've got a dungeon where they hold a giblet, and it's just got all your typical sort of items that you would expect at sort of a really large castle. So the gentleman, Sir Fluke Braivels, in his time, he was a really influential person, and again, this is the part where the legend comes in. But he was never married, didn't have any children, so he realised his mortality and decided to write a will. He decided that his closest person was one of the servants, but I don't know if he was very generous in his will, and for whatever reason the servant decided that he wasn't happy with that decision, stabbed him in anger, and again, this is the grisly bit. I don't know why I keep finding the grisly bits, but so it took him a month to die, but it didn't really help because his wound was packed with mutton fat. That's a bit of a weird fact.
Mary, your two stories have had someone had their face shot off, and then someone
I've really
gone for the real death factor, haven't you?
But yeah, so he actually passed away in his London house, but he was brought back to Warwick Castle, and the legend is that there's been sightings of him, and that he walked to his room that was once his study. And I know one of our experiences was footsteps in the grounds, and actually sort of walking along the corridors. So that's a good legend there. And another legend there is actually Anne Greville, who was the fourth Countess. She was actually interested in ghosts and spirits, and she's actually written letters of her experiences there. And it was in the they held seances in the oak bedroom, which is now the Kenilworth bedroom. So it was said that they were trying to find out a secret from Edward Jameson, but it's not clear whether they found that secret out or not. So maybe that's our challenge for the next time we go there. But
I know Charlotte's put really want to go there. So yeah. And we did have it booked for a second time, and then the night we had it booked on, she let me know about 3 or 4 weeks before that she had a wedding taking place the same day, which means we couldn't get in any of the upper buildings. And we're like paying like over $1,000. I can't remember what we paid in it. It was a lot of money.
It's
So we cancelled, but we would have gone back there. I think it was the 1st September. I think a couple of years ago we were going to go back in quick succession, but she couldn't guarantee what access we had. The main hall was a wedding, and as soon as you know people are outside smoking, they see us what we're doing. We'd have been underneath. We'd have to rule out everything out. So we've had that before. So. But no, great venue, really, really good venue. Nikki says it's a stunning place. All the walking's a bit of a killer though. I remember walking from the car all the way through. It was just, even to get to the mess room was amazing.
And they go, "Do you want to go up that tower next?" And like,
yeah,
the dungeon sounds quite good.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. So we're going to go from Warwick. I know we're not running out of time, but we're getting towards the end of these. So. I don't know if we had to move on to the next bit or not, but then we're going to go from Warwick to Dudley Castle. I know we spoke a little bit about, but Andy's going to give you a bit of an overview on Dudley Castle. So go from Warwick to Dudley.
Let's go. Okay, so Dudley Castle was built in 1070, and weirdly, my Matilda and Stephen story continues here, and we're zoom forward to 1153, and Matilda's hiding in this castle now, and Stephen attacked it and was repelled this time. Skip forward a bit later, in 1250, the Summery family owned the site, and they knocked down the old wooden castle, rebuilt it in stone. It becomes a real thing, and people are interested in it as a castle. And it was with the Suttons until the mid 16th century, where John Sutton VII, after having a lot of money problems, was bought out by a relative who was John Dudley, who liked the name of the town because it was his, so he moved there. And later on he was the Duke of Northumberland. Until 1553, when he was beheaded because he was trying to get Lady Jane Grey onto the throne. And so Queen Mary didn't like that much, so she gave the castle back to the Sutton family and kept his head. In skipping into the Civil War again, there's very similar castles ones I've got. So they become a royalist stronghold during the English Civil War. So royalist again. It was besieged in 1644, and they managed to get rid of the Roundheads until it was actually captured in 1646, who caught it and decided, because they didn't want to leave it behind, it was going to get recaptured by the royalists. They destroyed a big bunch of it, so it was no longer much use as a military castle. I then kind of sat there for a long time until 1750, where the bits which were still habitable were burnt out, and you can see that if you go there now, because a lot of the buildings around the back range are completely just open to the sky, which is interesting for some footsteps we heard above us when we were inside that, where it sounded like there was wooden footsteps above us, and the only thing there was the stars. Back to the history. So after it was just set there as a ruin for a while, in 1937 they built a zoo around it, the Dudley Zoo, and they just kind of used the castle as like a feature of the zoo. And in 2012 there were some meerkats trying to sleep, and they were woken by a whole bunch of ghost hunters making a lot of noise and poking at them. So the nice thing about that place is the amount of stories is crazy. They've got processions of black monks, grey ladies, miners, drummer boys, old ladies holding cats, dark figures covered in mud, a blood stain on the staircase which they can't scrub away. People are touched, prodded, doors are opened and tapped. People hear moans and groans and footsteps and air blasts and disembodied voices. But the thing I want to talk about is a set of legs. So in the undercroft, which is like one of the last bits of the castle which didn't get knocked down or burnt, there's this stone coffin, and it's only about half there, and basically during investigations people go and lie in it and call out. But the interesting thing is that people have seen this set of legs, because the stone coffin itself is actually broken in half, and it's believed to be owned by one of the Summerys, and people keep seeing the legs by the coffin. And except for one time there was someone who worked at the castle opening up the place, and in one area where the floor was shiny, he saw himself behind walking, and then behind them he saw this set of legs reflected in the surface. walking behind him. Very interesting. And the nice thing is both those instances show that something has been probably recorded there, but then over the years you're only getting a bit of it. Some of it is degraded, so you're only now seeing pairs of legs walking around, which is kind of an interesting story.
You normally see top halves, don't you? Like lots of ghost reportings have been top halves where the ground has risen and you're only really seeing a residual side of a soldier or something like that. Certainly in Winchester, that's a big sighting. But to see this, the bottom half is really odd, isn't it? Really odd.
You hear like Roman centurions where they're kind of only waist height and they're walking across like a bypass or something.
Yeah. Very odd. But yeah, good castle. Good to go there with the zoo. Be mindful of the animals, I guess. And a lot of it, you've got an element of indoors and outdoors. So you do, keep off, I guess, the elements of it. But yeah, you do battle with some of the animals as well. So nice. So from Dudley, we go to Derby. We go to Tutbury Castle, where it all happened for us. It's
our first ever investigation.
Where we've got some real good encounters. We'll probably do a castle. We sort of said maybe we'd do a Castle 2 show where we bring the evidence through. I reckon that's probably what we need to do because so much stuff. Once you start talking about castles, there's so much to go into. But we'll move on from Dudley Castle up to Tutbury Castle.
Okay, so Tutbury Castle, it was the first castle that I investigated with SGS up in Staffordshire, so just across from Derbyshire a little bit. It's the history of it is a ruined medieval castle. It's now owned by the Duchy of Lancaster, but originally it was a settlement of priory and manor houses that were there from about 1080, wooden structures and bits and pieces like that. The castle, as we sort of know it, was sort of rebuilt by the Earl of Lancaster because I think it was Prince Edward nearly destroyed the entire building in about 1264. So it was rebuilt by the Earl of Lancaster in the 1300s. So the heydays of I suppose, Tutbury Castle really would have been during the reign of Henry IV to about Henry VI. So we're talking kind of like War of Roses era, if you want a little bit of a history. So 1399, I think it is, to the 1470s. So around about that era was kind of like its heyday, if you like. It was mostly used as a residential castle, although it was used as a prison, not for just your debtors' prison and bits and pieces. The most famous prisoner in there, of course, was Mary, Queen of Scots. So it's far enough away from London so that, Queen Elizabeth I didn't feel sort of too hindered by her presence, but far enough from Scotland. She was incarcerated there for at least 4 times over the history of incarceration. And she kept getting moved from sort of, castle to castle, because I'm sure Queen Elizabeth was convinced she was going to be rescued or, sort of escaped from there or something like that. So she never spent that much time actually incarcerated in that one prison before being moved on to prevent, escape or freedom, liberation. Henry VIII, I know we said Henry VIII visited and, owned most places. He visited in 1511. Not quite sure on the context. I'm mindful of time here, so I'm kind of skim reading some of the information I've got here and just cutting it down. There is so much history on this castle. I know, Dan and Lee, we've discussed sort of off screen. This is one of your first events, really, wasn't it? And I don't know whether you encountered any of the famous ghosts. Obviously Mary, Queen of Scots, although she hated the place because it was damp and it was cold and it was very windy up there. So I can't imagine if she was going to go and haunt a place, why would you choose somewhere that you absolutely hated? I think if I was going to haunt somewhere, I'd choose somewhere that I actually enjoyed being, but I don't know if that's how it works. Apparently there's a large male gatekeeper that's seen in full armour who's a bit brusque with people. I don't know if you've encountered him at all. And there's also supposedly an evil demon in the dungeon. And it wasn't me, but there is an evil demon in the dungeon. So have you encountered any of the famous ghosts there when you started there?
We have, and in fairness, it was the first ever investigation we did, not even with Southern Ghost Light, but it was everything to do with Southern Ghost Light, because on the way back through the snow, we it was certainly a place where it was born, wasn't it? We did. And again, we're not going to go into level of detail because we're running out of time a little bit. But we encountered a gatekeeper. We saw him. We saw someone. We were leaving a little bit earlier, and yeah, just to sort of paraphrase it, really, we saw it was white snow. I was worried about driving down from there, and so we grabbed a coffee, and we were going to walk out, and we sort of followed someone down. And as we got to the gate, we realised there was no one there, but there was no footsteps in the snow either. But there was a black figure standing underneath the light, under the lit up sort of.
Yeah, the light was shining from the front, so facing the front of the gatehouse. And as we were walking down to it, I remember clearly seeing. I was taking photos, but I didn't take a photo of where the gatehouse was because there was somebody there, and I didn't want them in my photos. So I was taking photos of other places to avoid getting someone in there because I wanted to get like a bit of a spooky shot and stuff like that. So I didn't take a photo of it because there was.
Didn't get the spookiest shot you possibly ever could have. That would have been the spookiest shot.
We had someone that was waiting for us to show us because you park just outside to the left of the gatehouse. So we assumed it was a member of the team we were with, showing us to our car, or didn't think anything of it until literally got there and then realised there was no footprints in the snow.
Yeah, it's odd. Really, really odd. Yeah,
strange. And that's what probably sparked a lot of this for us.
It's got to be. It's definitely what sparked it. Yeah. Cool. So we go from Tutbury to Clitheroe then.
Let's go.
Tutbury. So Clitheroe Castle was booked and purely booked on the strength of the Pendle witches. And so we'd investigated, and I've done a lot of research on Pendle witches, if you know about the Pendle witch trials and so on. And we actually booked an 18th century barn on Pendle Hill, which actually we probably had more activity in that barn than we did. Yeah. But we stayed there for 2 nights. It was odd. It was eerie. We had noises in there. It was really odd. But we wanted a venue as well as the hills and walking the hills, and as well as doing all that, we wanted to make sure that we had a venue to go to as well. So the Friday night we went around the hills, went to the Pendle Inn. We went to the Black Bull, which is one of the most haunted pubs there as well. And we booked Clitheroe Castle to have a venue which was associated to the witch trials, where actually the castle we should have gone to was Lancaster Castle, which we're going to talk about next. But so Clitheroe Castle was built in the 12th century. It dominated the skyline for, as you can see on the picture, for over 800 years. It was part of the sort of de Lacy family. It's actually the second smallest standing keep in the UK at the moment. So literally we had nothing. And when we went there, we were so het up about the Pendle witches. We were so excited about it that actually when we got there, we investigated the gift shop and the kitchen. And it was one of those so nearly events that we couldn't wait to get back to our 18th century barn on Pendle Hill, because that's where the whole witch trials and where everything sort of where they were practiced, if they were, and so on. So, but we had a good night. It was quite interesting. It was always used as a castle and as a defence because the River Ribble was a significant transport route, so it was used for the defence there. And again, I would say that the most famous ghosts, or the famous is of the Pendle witches. They were definitely was definitely associated with there. And actually, the legend has it that the devil, in his anger at their incarceration and their treatment, the devil threw a boulder from Pendle Hill. And actually, when you look at the keep, there's a hole in the keep, and they said the devil himself threw a boulder through there in his anger at the way they treated his witches, or the witches. So yeah, we never spoke to a devil or the witches that night. It was a relatively quiet night, although I'm doing the place this justice because you do investigate, but you do investigate sort of the lower part of it, and it is a.
I think if we went there now, it would be different. We were gutted.
We were gutted, but actually
focused on the witches, weren't we?
And also, this is where we were still in most haunted mode, where we needed all these dark little crevices and stuff. But actually, the gift shop and the kitchens were all part of the castle. So try not to get too bogged down with what our surroundings were. We actually had, not to be too bogged down was because they still stood on the grounds where it would have been, So that's that really. Clitheroe Castle is a good one. It's where a lot of the Pendle Hill ghost hunts go from. They start at Clitheroe Castle and they work their way into the hills. It's one of the guys that will work from there really. But it's it's an interesting place. Although that for me, if you want Pendle Hill witches, you go to Lancaster Castle, which leads me nice onto Lancaster Castle.
Well played.
So, Lancaster Castle. I always say castle, not castle. And a little bit of that is my northern heritage. Lancaster, or should I say, Torres Home, which is just on the outskirts and between Lancaster and Morecambe, is where my mum was born and bred. So I spent most of my youth up in and around Morecambe and Lancaster. So it was also always a castle. So I struggle when you guys say castle. I say castle, and I'm born and bred in Oxford, so I shouldn't be saying castle. But there we go. So anyway, Lancaster Castle, brilliant venue. The most recent of the 3 castles that I've done, I haven't done all 10. I've got a bucket list, so I'm going to add to it. Medieval castle and court. It's now owned again by the Duchy of Lancaster. As well as being a court, it was a prison for a length of time. So originally a Roman fort was on the area. And then a timber castle was built by one of the Norman lords. Possibly a circular defence enclosure, so we're not quite sure. It's not the normal style of castle at the time. The Norman lord fled in 1102, and Henry I confiscated and the honour, and with it came the castle. So he then took it on. Lots of civil war battles and such like in and around that area because it was a defensive sort of stronghold. Again, we're looking at War of the Roses, the Scottish Independence War. So if you're looking at history, it's around about that time frame that it saw most of its battlement and history sort of thing. Looking at this, 1554, it became a jail. So it was the county jail intended for short-term incarceration of waiting trial. So as Lee was saying, it was sort of like debtors. It was people sort of short term. It wasn't designed initially as long-term jail sentences and bits and pieces like that, but gradually it sort of morphed into that. It also contains the county courts. There was executions in the yard as well. It was a debtor's prison. So if you're thinking about like a locked workhouse where people couldn't afford to pay the court fees, they'd be incarcerated there and they'd be made to work to pay off the fees and the debts that they owed to the court. About the 18th century, it became a longer term prison due to the overcrowding and poor sanitations in other prisons. It was rife for jail fever, which they now think was a typhus fever, not typhoid, typhus, which was linked to poor sanitation, spread via lice, chiggers, which I'd never come across before, which are little red bugs apparently, and fleas, depending on which type of typhus fever you've actually got. Lots and lots of executions took place there. 1584 saw the execution of 15 Catholics. So that was the Lancaster martyrs executed for their faith, basically. As you said, the Pendle witch trials all took place there. They were executed. So have they come back to seek retribution? Interesting, there was information from Andy, because Andy's done a really, really comprehensive booklet around Lancaster Castle. And there were 260 people hanged between 1800 and 1910. So there's an awful lot of death happening in and around those premises. It was used as a garrison defence. The oldest part of the castle is the keep. And right up until 2011, it was used as a prison. It's now open to the public, but it is also the county crown court. Now, I remember visiting that probably in about 1980, 1981 with my family, but I can't imagine my parents would have taken me for a day trip to a prison. So I'm not quite sure which bit I would have visited or walked around. But yeah, maybe it was. Famous ghosts of Lancaster Castle is the haggard woman and child. So it's a dishevelled looking woman and child. And interestingly, when I went through my notes, I made contact with a young child. So it's kind of interesting that we had that, possibly part of when it was the debtor's prison as opposed to when it was permanent incarceration. There's a black monk, which is supposed to be a shadow that people have seen. I know when we visited it, we were chatting to the security guards there, or I was chatting to the security guards there, and they said that they constantly see shadows, they see people, they're sure that they've walked into an area thinking it's one of the other guards, and then they'll go back to their control room and the other guard's already there, and they go, but weren't you just in that bit that I was just in, and causes absolute confusion for them. So fantastic venue from an investigation, huge, so vast, you can't investigate it all in an evening. I think we'd probably need a week at least to try and do the place justice, because there was just so much to actually go and explore there, isn't it?
Yeah, and we weren't allowed in half it. Remember, we only allowed the ground floor of the main. Honestly, do you know what? That is one venue. I'm telling you now, that is one venue. If they allow, the moment they allow us back in, we're back there. Honestly, we had such a. We're gonna do a Castles 2 show. We didn't even talk about what. We're gonna do a Castles 2 show, and I think that we'll bring some footage to you and some evidence of what we caught in castles and stuff. What we normally do, like we talk about it one day and then we bring the evidence the next. But myself and Beth, we followed this shadow around for about 15 minutes. So much so there was a light on the top on the landing that was motion detected. Well, by the time we got to it, that had gone off. So, and we could hear the talking. It was two people. In the end, we were like, it's deaf. We weren't even properly recording. We weren't even properly investigating. We were so baffled by these voices we caught. But there is a video that we're going through the evidence at the moment. We do have like Beth's body cam she was wearing that actually would have picked up the light being on when we got there, and the chatter. There's so much. Honestly, it was such a really good night that
I gave you a tour. Didn't I? I gave you a little tour of the area during the daytime, didn't I?
We had some chips on the seafront, didn't we? It was very nice. Very simple.
I missed it.
Lee missed it. Went there. We tried to book it, and they basically have stopped go something there and investigations there, which is so sad, because honestly, I'll be booking this one. So look, you saw the picture on the screen. It's huge. Honestly, it's one venue where I just feel like I didn't even scratch the surface of it. And we could go back there and have a whole completely different night.
Yeah, it looks awesome.
But that's our review. Sorry, Heather. Do you know what? I thought you were going to say something because I'm watching the video on YouTube and you were delayed, and I thought your mouth was moving. Sorry. But that's our review of the castles we've been to. Like I say, a little bit different in terms of going into the overview and the history, but it leads us really nicely. And not for tonight, but we're going to do a castle show where we bring to you the evidence. We certainly have the Warwick Castle, the footsteps. We have myself and Beth at Lancaster Castle. We have some. We have sort of 3 different experiences at Warwick Castle. So we have the board and the orbs, and we have the footsteps that Andy and Mary talk about experiences. I watched a video this week, which has been lost in space on Andy's hard drive, I guess, with us communicating via the catwalk, which honestly was a really good, over 2 videos, about a 15-minute clip. So we've got lots to bring to you. Just really quickly, because I can't stop the show about doing it, and we're not going to go into detail. Mary, if I had to ask you, what's your favourite castle you've been to? Which one is it?
Lancaster.
What about favourite for activity?
Warwick.
Andy, favourite castle you've been to?
Margam.
What about for activity?
It's going to be Warwick.
Yeah? Good man. Hev, favourite castle you've been to?
Sorry, same as Mary, Lancaster.
What about for activity?
Probably Warwick as well. Yeah. So
different
activity, because we're in different groups, so different activity. Yeah.
Favourite castle, I'd say Warwick.
Go on. Favourite for activity?
Got to be Tutbury.
Is that sentimental though? Because what we caught from the very first time.
Possibly, but we saw a full body apparition.
Yeah, good shout. My favourite castle, I think. Oh, I did put St Braivels down, but I think it's Warwick. I think it's Warwick. And my favourite activity, I've put Warwick / Lancaster.
Sounds like.
And again, we've got videos.
Sounds like we're doing a Warwick and a Lancaster show, don't we?
I think we do a Castles too, but we also we focus around Warwick Castle, Lancaster Castle, the stuff we caught at Dudley, I guess, and just really just a bit of an overview. I know you've had some good. A bang. I was going to say a good bang at Oxford Castle.
I had a cracking bang at Oxford Castle.
You can stay there actually at the Malmaison, but that's another story.
Another complete different show.
Yeah, definitely. But guys, we've been on for like an hour and 40 minutes, and probably the longest show we've done. And you guys have stuck with us, and it's been really cool and really getting castles off our chest, really. But the next show is going to be Castles 2. It's got to be Castles 2, and we'll talk about the activity we've had on the castles. If that's in the form we can bring it to you in video, we will do. EVPs we've caught at castles. That's our next one we're going to be doing next week.
If anyone's got any
yeah,
footage or EVPs or anything that are watching that you want to send in to us that we can put to the show,
definitely. Even if it's
Please
not about that, we're listening. We're not like we did at the start of this. But it's been amazing again to chat with you. Like I say, we've had some good chat and some good interaction from you guys. Some really good questions that make you think about the next time we go to castles as well. This is the plug again, really. Like, share, follow, subscribe. Keep doing that for us, guys, because we're having a really, really good feedback on that and really good viewing figures and stuff. So the more you do of that, the more we'll bring these venues to you. And hopefully, like I say, in a month, 2-3 months' time, we won't be sitting on your sofa. We will be at a venue live, and we're doing some different things where you'll really see everything we talked about. You'll see it put into practice. You'll see, you'll see us with the using the evidence or using the history and using the voices and Lee dressing up as a Victorian schoolgirl.
And also be able to tell us what to do, where to investigate different types, anything you want. If you want to send Dan off on his own into a dungeon,
can't totally do that.
Due to the new regulations,
if you suggest it, we've got to do it. So
I've been trying to do that on every event, and it never works.
The thing is, what our new sort of COVID regulations, I need to stay 2 meters close to everyone. That's the way I've read it. So I can't. So, but guys, keep liking, keep sharing, keep following. We released a video on YouTube, so if you watched it on that, that's been, watch us on that. If you're not following us on YouTube, please try and do that for us. So try and subscribe on YouTube. Watch it and subscribe. Because the more followers we got on that, that's going to probably be our platform, really. We can come live from Facebook, but again, YouTube's probably the way forward for us, really. But like I said, we can't do that without you. So thanks everyone for tuning in. We will release this video and then see you soon. Thank you everyone for chatting in, and we'll see you soon.
Cheers, guys.
Later.
Thank you, everyone.
Later.